Hey everyone, have had some thoughts in my mind here for the last 3 days. It was a long weekend with Labor Day on Monday, and have been deep in thought on this subject for the last 3 days. I've been pretty quiet on social just because I've kind of been in mid-thought with this for several days and had to really think about my own little mini journey with the subject that I'm about to talk about. And kind of how it came about was just really observing some friends of mine and some acquaintances and just people that I don't even know but I follow on social media, and just kind of been seeing this trend with this over the last year or two, and it just kind of became very aware and open to me, and I had to really think and stop and think about my own little mini journey with my own part that is similar to theirs in the sense of I just see people that give up really soon with maybe new ventures or goals that they're going for, and just stopping really early, not giving themselves that window of opportunity. And I think about how long I've been at what I've been doing, 7+ years, and things definitely don't always go my way, and most of the times they don't, but you just find ways around them and keep going and making that choice to continue. But I have to stop and really think about the step that I took to get to where what I consider is giving yourself permission to be great. Now stop for a second. When I'm saying great, I don't mean in the sense of like how we judge a football player or a basketball player like MJ or LeBron or somebody where like they are one of the greatest. Now I don't mean it like that whatsoever. What I mean is when I say giving yourself permission to be great, what I mean by that is that opportunity to do some great things, to be happy, to chase the goals, ambitions, and dreams that you want. Because to me, that ultimate level of success or greatness or an opportunity to be great is when you're on your own terms, when you have, when you're judging your own happiness, when you're feeling great. That is giving yourself the opportunity to be great. When you are at peace with yourself, and when you're really learning and growing that way as an individual without the that outside influence from other people determining that for you. And so I really had to stop and think about my journey to that point where I decided to give myself an opportunity to be great. And I started working in my field as a personal trainer back in 2011, right after I graduated college. And I worked at this gym for around 3 years. I think it was 3.5 years, and just started, wanting more for myself, wanting more opportunity to grow. And I had already owned Run to Gun for 2.5 years at that point, and had opened it up. And I really wanted to take my business full time for myself, but I wasn't there yet. I was still needed that full-time job, and then still needed to work full-time on Run to Gun to make it all work, to make the money that I needed to make to live, and just to give my business still an opportunity to grow to where it needed to be. We still had a lot of learning and growing to do on the Run to Gun side of things. And so I had this opportunity at another gym, and it was in February. I remember it was January I started looking at it, and I interviewed, and in January got the job easy, and went to another facility. And I remember it was February 12th or 13th. I think it was February 13th. I took that job after knowing I should take Run to Gun full time, that I should just go for it and do it. But I took this other job instead and decided to still do Run to Gun full time on the side as I was working full time as a trainer and managing this facility. And I remember sitting there after a week, and I remember specifically, it was February 13th. I took that job in early February, but it was February 13th that I was sitting up in a chair by myself, and I was ultimately just pissed off at myself for taking the job and what I considered at the moment to be selling myself short. And I just remember being so mad at myself for doing that and not taking Run to Gun full time and not taking a risk on myself. And I sat there and I told myself, you're going to give this 1 year. You're going to do this for 1 year, and then you're going to take Run to Gun full time. And I was ultimately mad and pissed at myself that day. And I remember feeling that way for quite a while. But as I got down the road and I was growing in this company and I was doing very well, and I still had ultimate freedom to do Run to Gun as much as I wanted. And so I kept doing it, and I kept, doing Run to Gun, putting a lot of energy into it. But when you're working full time in another job, the mental capacity of what I could put into Run to Gun as well was definitely limited. I was putting a ton of hours into it, but the amount of creativity, the amount of positive thinking, the amount of things you can do when you're still working full time over here as well is going to be limited. I didn't necessarily know that at the time. And so I ended up being at that job for another almost about 3 years. And again, I got to that point where I was wanting more, wanting something different, which was Run to Gun, but I failed to acknowledge that in my own mind that, dude, just go do Run to Gun full time. Just go do it. I knew I wanted it, but I was still not giving myself permission just to go take the risk and do it. I felt obligated that I needed the source of income from somewhere else to feel secure. And so I had another opportunity working for another franchise system to help them rebrand, to help them grow and adjust. And so I took that job and thinking that it was still going to give me freedom in that sense, and it was completely different than my previous job that I did have ultimate freedom. I had to really sneak and fight to get all my extra work done with Run to Gun, and I almost got to a point where felt like I was going to have that slip. And so I hammered that out for, it was like 8 months, and got to a point where I absolutely devastatingly hated it, and it was a feeling I've never had in my life. And so that was in it was mid 2018 that I absolutely hated it. And so that was in June of 2018. So I spent the rest, I had 6.5, 7 months of 2018 to absolutely hammer out and grow my brand. So I was spending endless hours trying to continue to grow Run to Gun to a point that I knew that in 2019 I could take it full time. At that point in June of 2018, I was 30 days out from my 30th birthday, and I just had this little epiphany with myself, and it was really odd because I just stopped caring what other people thought. And I knew that, it just hit me, and I knew that there were so many things I wanted to do with Run to Gun, so many posts I wanted to post, so many things I wanted to say, that I was just worried, deep down, how I was going to be judged by it. And I just reached that point 6 months out from my 30th, that I just did not care anymore, and I was tired of being held back. And that was my first big step towards not caring and really giving myself permission to do what I wanted to do, and to do those things that what I consider giving yourself permission to be great, or that opportunity to be great, right? Which we talked about, not necessarily the type of greatness we think about when judging somebody in sports, right? And so here I got through the rest of 2018 into 2019, and I knew I was getting close, and I really wanted to just be done. And finally I had the opportunity in May of 2019 to be done and truly make that decision. Do I go get another job, or do I take Run to Gun full time? And I was really back and forth with it. And then one day I just realized, no, I'm not back and forth with this. Dude, it's time to see if you're good enough. It's time to take that risk. You're 7 years into this. Let's go for it. And June 1st, officially, I took Run to Gun full time. Nothing else, no other distractions. And really gave myself the opportunity to be great, right? And so here I am, June, July, August, September. So 4 months, 100% into my own thing that I've been working on for so long. And most likely this year, compared to what I've made, the 18 months of my previous job, I'll make probably roughly 40%, maybe 50% of that income that I had made the previous 18 months. But I just come to realize that none of that has anything to do with the amount of happiness that I have. I've been definitely happier than I've been in the last 7 years when it comes to career path-wise. Right here, right now, going after my own dreams, ambition, and goals. I've always talked about, you can go back in any season of Run to Gun and listen, and I've preached that over and over again, to take those steps out to chase your dreams, ambition, and goals. And I finally gave myself 100% permission instead of 50 or 60% permission to kind of go for it and to really just take that step over the line instead of walking on the line, and to give myself that opportunity. And so really the message and the thought process today, as I've been observing for so long of other people as well, but giving up soon or too soon, or not even giving yourself the opportunity at all, to just, I encourage you to give yourself that window of opportunity to take those steps towards giving yourself permission. Because I think it really starts and stems with yourself and that self-belief, to give yourself permission to go try something new, to just go for something that you've been thinking about, whether that is in your career, whether that's asking out a girl, or whether that's anything that you've been wanting to go do, or a trip you've wanted to go take. That it starts and stems from right here and right here, that you have to give yourself permission to go do that. And it's all in that self-belief. And I definitely not saying that I have it together just because I've made that decision, because I'm definitely a work in progress myself every day. And I think that's part of the journey. We've talked about, enjoying the process and loving the journey. We've talked about that for the last 5 or 6 years with Run to Gun. And I definitely think that's something that'll never stop and end as well, that we're always in process. And that there's times, I know for myself, that I'm louder than others when it comes to speaking my mind or vocalizing my thoughts to you guys. And other times, like the last 5 or 6 days, I'm really quiet because I catch myself in process like this, where I'm thinking about something and I'm trying to process it and communicate it correctly, because oftentimes I struggle just communicating my thought process out clearly. I have it in my head, and then I go to say it and I record it, and sometimes I hear it and I'm like, gosh, that's kind of what I wanted to say, but it's not as clear as I wanted to communicate it. And so I'm in process too of all of that, and using my own experience and some of my journey like this to share with you, and hopefully encourage you to give yourself permission to go do those things that you want to do, and those dreams, ambitions, and goals, and to not sell yourself short and not feel like you sold out yourself like I felt back on February 13th of, I believe it was 2014. And it was that day that, I remember it. And I definitely don't regret taking those jobs in between because of what I learned and the self-learning and development that I got from those areas, to get to the point of maturity, to get to the point of self-belief that I was out at when I said yes to taking Run to Gun full time. I definitely needed all of those to get to where I was, but I don't think we can use those as excuses right now if you're in that journey to not do what you want to do either. And so continue to just work on yourself and to have that self-belief, to build that up, and at the end of the day to look at yourself in the mirror and give yourself permission to do those things. I hope this is encouraging to you. I'd love to hear some of your feedback as well and hear some of your story. If you need somebody to talk to, I'm definitely always here to listen, and I'd enjoy to hear your story as well. So have a good Tuesday. I hope your long weekend over Labor Day was well. I hope I communicated that well. I don't know if I'll go back and listen to this to see if I even did, but I hope it encourages you to come and do something that you would like to do. Have a great rest of your week, you guys, and live beyond average.